It was my first year at college. I had just finished putting all my stuff away in my dorm room, and my family had just left. Later that same day, my roommate finally arrived. Right away, I knew this guy was the weirdest person I'd ever met. I said my name was Dan and held out my arm for a handshake. He stopped, looked down at my hand like he was confused, then laughed weirdly and said, "Oh," before giving me a weak handshake. I had to ask him his name because he didn't tell me when we shook hands. He was Dale. I tried to make small talk, but he mostly answered my questions with yes or no, sometimes letting out a weird laugh or smile. Very quickly, we were both just sitting on our own beds, looking at our laptops, not talking. I was already upset and planned on asking for a different roommate. Anyone would definitely be better than Dale. At first, I thought Dale was just a really awkward guy, but I soon found out he was something else. I met some of the other students on my floor, and they seemed cool, which was good. I came back to my dorm later that first night after looking around campus, only to find Dale in the same spot he was in when I left. I said hi. "What's up, Dale?" But he didn't answer. Not too surprising. It was about 9:30 p.m. I didn't have anything else to do, so I turned off the lamp on my side of the room and got into bed. But I didn't fall asleep right away. Dale stayed on his laptop until 3 in the morning. When he finally closed his laptop, I fell asleep pretty fast. But I woke up about an hour later. The blinds to our room were open, and the moonlight coming in lit up everything, including Dale, sitting on the edge of his bed, looking right at me. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and asked, "Dale, what the heck are you doing?" He whispered back, "Sorry," and lay down. The next morning, I woke up and saw Dale had already gotten up and left. It felt like the first time he'd actually left the room. It was a Saturday, the first one of the year, which meant welcome week stuff and campus events. During the campus tour, as my group went by the school gardens, I heard a couple of students ahead of me talking quietly. "What is that kid doing in there?" I saw who they were talking about. It was Dale, really sitting in the dirt behind some bushes, rubbing the bark of a tree with his hand. The tour guide didn't notice, otherwise I'm sure she would have done something. I just walked past without saying anything. Later, I told the 2 students I'd heard that Dale was my roommate, trying to start talking and maybe make some friends. They said sorry to me, and even though none of us knew if it was okay, we ended up laughing about it. I made friends with those 2, and we made plans to hang out that night. I also found out when I got back to my dorm that the school had found another roommate for me. Things seemed to be getting better quickly. I left the room that night to meet up with my new friends. When I got back, Dale was sitting on the desk chair, facing the door. I said, "Hey, what's up?" He replied quickly, "Nothing." I sat down on my bed and opened my laptop, realizing I'd forgotten to lock it. I also saw that all my emails were opened, emails I was sure I hadn't even read, and a bunch of my computer folders had been looked through. Dale must have looked through my laptop. When I asked him about it, he yelled, "No," really loudly, almost before I even finished asking. I could read him like a book. This creepy kid was really going through my computer when I was out. I knew he did it, but I didn't argue. I was ready for bed. As I went to my drawers to get my pajamas, I felt like my clothes had all been moved around too. I knew I'd be out of that room for good the next day, so I didn't say anything more. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of a zipper. I sat up and saw Dale on the ground, going through my bag. I turned the lamp on, asking him directly what he was doing. He acted like he didn't know, saying, "Oh, I think you have my toothbrush by mistake." It was the most clever thing he'd said, but I knew he was lying. I knew something was really wrong with him, so I didn't want to fight him. The next day, I met my new roommate in the new building, and everything went well. Sunday night, after a good talk with my new roommate, who wasn't very social but was much better than Dale, we both turned off our lights and went to bed. For the 3rd night in a row, I woke up late to a strange noise. It was a weird clicking sound. It wasn't steady, but I'd hear it at least twice every 30 seconds. I got up, hoping it was something simple, like a heavy bag making a floorboard creak, or even a mouse. But as I looked around the room, I figured out the sound was actually coming from the other side of the door. The light in the hallway outside was always on, so when I looked through the peephole, I could see the top of someone's head standing right outside our door. They were looking down, so I couldn't see their face. But now that I was paying attention, I realized the little clicking noises were coming from the doorknob. I was sure the person was trying to unlock the door. I called the campus police. They showed up in the hallway in less than 5 minutes. Only then did I feel safe enough to open the door. I found the officers with Dale in handcuffs. I had a feeling it was him. I told them everything, that he was my old roommate who had been going through my stuff, so I switched dorms, only to find him now trying to break into my new room. They took him away. I don't know what happened to him after that, but I never saw him again. He either got kicked out for the semester or kicked out for good. I finished the rest of my years at college like anyone else. But the scary experience I had with Dale still pops into my head sometimes. I went to Binghamton College for 2 years. I quickly made a big group of friends there, and we'd go out almost every weekend. One weekend, on a Friday night in October, our group didn't have big plans. Me and 2 other close friends decided to hang out in the woods near school by the lake. There was this little open spot on the other side of the lake that was good for fires. Since it was hidden from the campus buildings and security guards, students would sometimes, but not often, come here to smoke, drink, and do basically all the other drugs. It was a pretty hidden spot, and most people didn't know about it, which we liked. That night, we just brought a lot of beers, made a fire, and hung out, having what we called a bro chat. As the night went on, time seemed to go faster as the beer started working. After a while, we were all laughing so hard that one of my friends was actually on the ground, rolling around in the leaves. That's when my other friend stopped laughing and said, "Shh." We all listened carefully. We heard the sound of leaves crunching and twigs breaking somewhere nearby. We quickly threw our bottles into the lake, since we were too young to drink legally, and put the rest of the beers in a backpack. Campus police sometimes check the woods on weekends to catch kids drinking or doing drugs. My feeling of being scared, probably made worse by the beer, was more than usual, and that was probably true for all of us. The fire made it easy to see us for anyone walking through the woods. But the thing was, this spot was so hidden and far from campus that it was strange to find anyone else that deep in the woods. It sounded like just one person nearby. We heard what sounded like somebody or something walking around us, or at least walking in a big half circle around our spot. Then, the sound of a big branch breaking nearby scared all of us. None of us were the type of guys who would fight, so we didn't have that one person with the guts to stand up and shout at whoever was out there. Instead, we all just sat quietly, telling each other to be quiet. It really started to feel like we were in that movie, The Blair Witch Project, because these sounds nearby, breaking branches, leaves crunching, kept coming towards our spot. We nervously laughed about it at first, but I quickly became terrified of who or what it could be. Suddenly, a huge thud made all 3 of us jump. At first, I didn't understand, even though I saw what made the sound. It took me a few seconds to realize that a branch had been thrown right into the middle of our fire. One of my friends took off running. My other friend and I paused, looking at each other, half laughing, half worried. I think we weren't sure yet if this was some big joke or not. Then, my friend who stayed let out a yell as he was hit in the face by another thrown branch. I grabbed the backpack, helped my friend up from the ground, and we ran fast back towards our dorm. When we got to the road between the woods and the dorms, we stopped to rest. But whoever was out there was clearly following us, because we heard steps coming closer to the road from the woods. We kept running back to the dorm. When we got back to our dorm floor, we found our other friend already okay in his room. We looked out of his room window down at the woods. There was someone walking back and forth at the edge of the woods. Every time a car drove by on the road, they would go back into the woods, then come out again once the car was gone. After a while, whoever it was went back into the woods for good, and we didn't see them again. We kept drinking in the dorm room, and in about 10 minutes, we were all laughing about what happened again. It wasn't until the next morning that we all realized how truly creepy that experience had been. We never really went back into those woods late at night after that. This happened during my first week of school, my first year at college in Iowa. I was just starting to feel okay with my roommate. He really wanted to join a frat. Joining week was starting the next week, but the parties were already starting on Thursday of the first week. My roommate didn't want to go alone, thinking it would be harder to meet people, so he asked me to go with him. I said sure. Even though I didn't want to join a frat myself, I still planned to go to parties. I was at a big party school. My roommate wanted to go to a certain frat party on Thursday, and then different frats on Friday and Saturday. His reason for going to this one was to have a second choice frat in case the better ones didn't let him join. This frat house was really far from campus, located in a bad part of town. We arrived at a house on the corner. If it wasn't for the loud music and cars parked everywhere, you would never think of this house as a frat house. It really looked like they just took the first house they could find. We knocked on the door and were immediately met by some short, heavy guy in a white t-shirt, holding a red cup. His shirt had big sweat stains under his arms and on his stomach. He told us to come right in. The party was in a really dark room with probably 50 guys packed into the living room. It was really hot in there, which made it even worse. I think I saw only about 2 girls at the whole party, and neither was good looking at all. The place gave off weird feelings. I stayed at the party for a good 20 minutes, trying to talk to one heavy guy from another country after another. Eventually, I showed my roommate I was ready to leave. But a big group of guys by the door made us decide to wait a bit longer so it wouldn't look weird leaving too early. I kept drinking the cheap beers they had. I think I drank 5 cups before I could even feel anything. A big guy came up to me with a tiny bottle. He handed it to me, smiling and saying, "That'll get you really drunk." I fake laughed and thanked him, thinking he would leave. But he just watched me, like he was waiting for me to drink it. So I did. It was about 2 shots of some kind of hard liquor. The guy then started trying to talk to me. Every time I showed I wanted to leave, he would try to keep me talking in this talk, where only he talked. My eyesight got really blurry pretty soon after that. I remember feeling dizzy all of a sudden, and the room seemed to get darker. That was the last thing I remember before waking up in a dark room, lying in a bed. I could hear the quiet sound of music from another room, so I knew I was still in the frat house. It was a very dark room. However, I could still see some furniture and a small closet door, but not much else. But even with the loud music, I heard the clear sound of a plastic bag crinkling coming from the closet. It sounded like somebody stepped on it. I ran out of that room and down the stairs, back to the crowded living room. I found my roommate and pushed him out the front door, past the group of guys still standing in a circle right next to it. During the car ride back to campus, I told my roommate I thought I'd been drugged. He almost called the cops, but I said it would be stupid and useless. My roommate then asked me a weird question. Was I hurt? I didn't feel hurt, and my clothes were still on, right? So I guessed not. When I checked the time, I realized I'd only been out for maybe 10 minutes before waking up. Whatever the guy gave me must have been weak or fake, thank God. That was my college experience of going to an unofficial bad frat party, and it is still the scariest thing that ever happened to me. I had a dorm room to myself my first semester of my second year. It was in the corner of the floor, kind of away from the other dorm rooms, in its own little area. You had to turn a corner just to see the door. It was nice because I could still talk with friends on my floor, have people over, but also have quiet when it was time to do homework or sleep. A few weeks into the semester, while I was studying for a science test, the quiet was broken by a noise. It took me a second to figure out it was a soft tapping at the door. It was so quiet that I nearly didn't hear it. I shouted, "Come in," but the door didn't open. So I got up to open it. Nobody was there. I walked around the corner to look down the hall. Empty. Someone was obviously messing with me. I went back to my bed and kept studying, leaving the door open this time. Nobody came. The next night, a few minutes after turning off the lamp in my room to sleep, the tapping on the door came back, but this time it was much louder, more like knocking. I called out, "Who is it?" Again, the knocking stopped, and nobody answered. I got out of my bed fast and opened the door, checking my small hallway. Empty. Again, I ran quickly from my door to the corner to look down the main hallway. Nobody. The next night, I woke up after sleeping for 3 hours. Someone was knocking on my door again, this time louder than ever. I wasn't sure if I should open the door this time. With a moment of bravery, I jumped up and opened the door. Nobody was there, which I kind of expected. But this time, I ran fast down the small hallway to my room. When I turned the corner, I got a quick look at the back of someone disappearing around the far corner at the other end of the hallway. I ran as fast as I could down the hallway. As I turned the next corner, where I'd seen the person just seconds before, I saw a door at the end of the hall closing. It wasn't a dorm room. It was a bathroom. I felt ready to face whoever this joker was. So I pushed the bathroom door open hard. The light was off. I turned it on, thinking I'd see somebody hiding, but I didn't see anyone. My first thought was to check the 2 bathroom stalls, which were both closed. I got on my hands and knees and looked under the stall doors. 2 heavy black boots were under one of the doors. I took a deep breath and pushed the stall door open. I was confused. There were the boots sitting on the floor, but no person wearing them. And then I heard a creepy laugh. Not like a girl or a kid. It was the kind of laugh I could only picture coming from a crazy old man. Suddenly, my bravery was gone, and I was really scared. So I ran back to my room and shut the door. I jumped back into bed and started messaging every friend I had. Of course, everyone was asleep. The knocking happened one more time that night. I ignored it. It lasted for about 30 seconds before whoever that person was finally stopped. I talked to everyone on my floor the next day. Nobody else heard any knocking, and everyone swore they weren't messing with me. Everyone seemed honest. I don't know why this person chose to bother me, or who this person was. Based on the boots and the laugh I heard, it was an older man though, and that bothers me.